Hey, family, friends, have you ever been disappointed? I'm sure you have been. We all have. And sometimes disappointments come from our planting something or investing in something or someone, expecting results or expecting productivity or multiplication. And our disappointment is when nothing happens, when there is no fruit. So in Matthew chapter 13, beginning at verse 3, Jesus is speaking about when things are planted, when the word is planted and nothing happens. I believe all of us want to see abundance in our lives. We want to see transformation. We want change in our lives, change for the good. And that can only occur when the word of God actually impacts our heart. But Jesus teaches that it is possible that we can be hearing the word and the word doesn't transform our lives. It doesn't help our relationships. It doesn't impact our emotional state of being. It does nothing for us. And the question is, how is that possible? Jesus said it all depends on the environment of our hearts. And so he likens the seed unto a farmer, right? The word of God being sowed like unto a farmer who sows the seed. And a farmer, when any farmer sows, the farmer expects fruit, a harvest. But Jesus is saying, like the farmer, the word of God is sown, but depending on the environment in which it's sown, it can yield results or it can yield absolutely nothing. And so last week I talked about the seed that fell along the path, and we said that that path was impenetrable, right? It was rocky. There was nothing going on. The soil was no good. And so because of that, when the seed was scattered on it, what happened? The birds came and just snatched it away. And he said it's just like the devil. The devil comes and he snatches the word from us. We forget the word. We don't think about it. We don't meditate on it. And that's because of the environment of our hearts. We didn't seek to understand it. We didn't pursue it. We didn't meditate on it. So the enemy, he just snatched it. Today, I want to talk about another environment. In verse 5 of Matthew 13, here's what Jesus said. He talks about another environment. He said, some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. And here's what happened. The seed, as a result of the seed, it sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. So let's go back and talk about this rocky place. He's really speaking about soil that really is not good soil because it's rocky. And the question is, what's wrong with this kind of soil? Number one, the fertility is low. Number two, low water storage. So therefore, the soil cannot be nourished, right, the way it needs to be in order to yield anything. It's difficult for the root to penetrate, right? These are the kinds of, this is the rocky soil. And he said there are layers of gravel, there's layers of stones in this soil. So there's a picture of this kind of soil. But he's saying that what happens is that it will spring up quickly. Something will spring up quickly, but because of the shallowness of the soil, it really won't last. And so here's 2 points that I want us to understand very carefully. Don't just pay attention to the surface, because the soil on the surface, it looked okay, but it was shallow, it was full of rocks. And sometimes we look on the surface, but not beneath. There's no depth. Can you imagine there are a number of people who look like something is going on? It may look flourishing on the top, but underneath there really is not much going on. And because of that, there's no sustenance. So be careful of what we're looking at on the surface. Here's another point I want us to take away, because this really helps us with life. Quick sometimes jeopardizes quality. Let me say it again. Quick sometimes jeopardizes quality. So we want things to happen quickly. Speed is important, right? The pace at which something happens, the results are important to us. We want things happening very, very, very quickly. The problem is that we can compromise quality, because the word says that some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But what happened to it eventually is that the sun came up and scorched it, and they withered. Why? Because they had no roots. So we're looking for things, we're seeking people with roots, that it's not just shallow. We're not shallow people, right? Things don't just come up, but they grow within a thick root, and we're able to be sustained. We're able to survive. So I'm going to talk about what that looks like in the hearts of someone who has the hearts are rocky, and how what happens to the word rather in that kind of environment. Why am I talking about this? Because if we want our lives to be transformed by the word of God, we have got to look at our hearts. This is a matter of the heart. Where is our heart? How receptive, how prepared are our hearts to hear the word of God? Because we're hearing the word of God, but is it changing our lives? I want our lives to be changed. So again, let us examine the environment of our hearts.